Riga, and Vilnius hinges quite literally on the defence of Gotland and maintaining the Slovakia Gap. If Russia were to seize it, it would be a very risky move because it would stimulate an Article 5 response from NATO. They would gain a massive advantage, though, allowing them to interdict shipping, launch aircraft, and further isolate the Baltic states. For NATO, Gotland is mission critical to maintaining the freedom of navigation and power projection capability. It's a linchpin. But what about Putin's murky hybrid warfare? The war in the grey zone that blurs borders and blurs rules. This is where the threats become insidious, difficult to attribute, and potentially devastating to everyday life. We're talking about Putin's shadow fleet and the direct threat to undersea cables. This is where the lines blur and the danger escalates. Putin's shadow fleet is a clandestine network of older, often poorly maintained tankers operating under obscure flags and even with no flags, with dubious ownership. They're used to circumvent sanctions, move oil, and essentially operate outside the standard international maritime law. In the Baltic, this fleet poses a dual threat. Firstly, an environmental catastrophe. These are aging vessels, sometimes with minimal insurance, navigating busy, ecologically sensitive waters. A major incident, a spill, could be devastating. But secondly, and more ominously, they provide cover for espionage and sabotage. In a conflict, these vessels could be used for reconnaissance, for illicit transport, or even in a black operation, create a false flag incident that could be blamed on a NATO country. It's a tool for hybrid warfare, adding a layer of unpredictable chaos to an already tense environment. Intelligence sources have indicated that some of these vessels are equipped with communications gear not typically associated with cargo ships. That's not to transmit, but it's to hoover up communications from the NATO countries as they go past them. They used to effectively map the seabed, which is the perfect way to scout for the next target, undersea critical infrastructure. On Christmas Day 2024, the Estlink 2 power cable between Finland and Estonia was cut. This was linked to a Russian oil tanker dragging its anchor. And in January this year, a Swedish-Latvian cable was severed, leading to the detention of a Russian crewed ship. This is all to disrupt financial transactions, emergency services, and public communications in a NATO state, forcing a NATO response without triggering an Article 5 military reaction. Russia is probing Europe's defences and its willingness to endure repeated attacks in the grey zone. As we've seen with recent incidents, the Kremlin is now starting to use its military to protect these illegal operations. They've flown jets to escort these tankers out of NATO's economic zones. The Shadow Fleet is no longer just a financial asset, it's a state-protected instrument that Russia is willing to fight for. So we have Russia's economic jugular, heavily fortified outposts like Kaliningrad, the critical strategic linchpin of Gotland, and now the shadowy, unpredictable fleet. It paints a picture of a region brimming with flashpoints where one misstep could have global repercussions. However, there is a country that isn't just getting ready. It's spent decades building a death trap for Russia. Finland. Finland has one of Europe's most daunting national defence structures. The terrain is essentially endless forest, thousands of lakes, narrow roads, and brutal winters. Add in decades of pre-built defensive positions. They know what the Russians are like, and hidden infrastructure, and any invasion becomes a logistical nightmare. Unique in Europe, Finland can mobilise large numbers of troops quickly, 280,000. They maintained a trained wartime strength of 280,000 troops, with a total reserve pool nearing 900,000, and given their small population, it's only 5.56 million strong. That is unparalleled commitment. Finland has the largest artillery capability in Western Europe, with over 1,500 major weapon systems, including howitzers, heavy mortars, and rocket launchers. This is a deep strategic stockpile built precisely to fight a long, high-intensity war, ensuring they can deliver a massive sustained volume of counter-fire should it be needed. Finland uses its terrain as a weapon. They have extensive fortifications, forests, and choke points. Their strategy, known as multi-tactics, is battle-tested from the Winter War. They don't try to hold a straight line on the border. They use the dense forests, the swamps, and extreme cold to break invading Russian columns into small, isolated pockets, or mottes. and then destroy them piecemeal. To understand the Finnish defensive mindset is to understand the Winter War in 1939 and the continuation war in 1941. This isn't theory for the Finnish